Pretty exciting week with our ongoing interview series, and the idea here is just to keep everybody in touch, introduce particularly new members to people who've been in the club for quite a while, and we've got three special guests tonight who've been in the club for quite a long time. And so pretty excited to have these three people. They're legends in their own right. The first thing I want to do, we've got a couple of sponsors, and we'd like to thank our sponsors. Brett Stammers of Rare Surf T-shirts, who's a great supporter of the club, and Holly and Sue at Looking Smart, great, look after our T-shirts and jackets and hooded towels and that sort of thing. So thank you guys. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with Bud, okay? And I think everybody's very familiar with Bud. Bud's got an incredible history with, particularly around Torquay. Surfing way back many years, which he's going to tell us about. And I just want to say that each one of these people are amazing surfers, and they've represented Victoria, national titles. Emma, who's I think still currently the women's logger champ. Is that correct?
No, we haven't had it yet.
Oh, no, I mean current. I mean, you won it last year?
No, I didn't win it last year. A couple of years ago.
Couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Anyway, lots and lots of titles amongst these people here. So, you know, great, really good talent in surfing, and we're lucky enough to have them all involved in our club. So, Bud, we've got Emma Webb. Emma is the ultimate frother. I've never seen anyone so excited at any time in any kind of surf. She's incredible. She's just so into it, always excited. And I remember the training we did with Kale a few years ago and chatting to you after it. And it's just amazing. You're like around up top, which was hilarious. But yeah, so excited all the time to be in the water and can never wipe the smile off her face. And also involved in a short film which we worked on last year for Fred Pike, which was really good to have you on board for that as well. And Noel Shanhun. Noel's, I only met Noel a couple of years ago. I'd heard of Noel for quite a long time, and Noel again has, you know, had a lot of success in his surfing career, state title level. Most of us are probably riding boards at Nola's glass. So he works with Brownie and he works with Morris and Strapper and God knows who else. So he's been heavily involved in the surf industry most of his life, I guess. So what I want to do is it's very casual. I was going to throw it out. If you want to jump in at any time, just feel free to do it. But we were just talking about the surf today because we've had a bit of a drought on, and I surfed early this morning, the first time in over a week. So I've only had a few surfs in the last month or so, but Emma surfed tonight and said it was pretty good. So I'm picking tomorrow morning's going to be real good. I
bet it's going to be good too.
Yeah, I'll be there. Okay, I'm going to start with Bud. And Bud, can you just give us a little bit of your background? I want to know how long you've been surfing and where you started surfing.
Yeah, okay, well, my parents started coming down to Torquay, and basically where the Voss's car park is, we camped there. Since 1956, we camped there for a considerable period of time. So basically I was 2 years of age, and basically I started just on one of the Lilo things initially when I was about 2. There's some photos of me and my cousins. We all got together in that same sort of area for the camping ground at the Torquay Foreshore Caravan, a camping ground there. And we were just behind, just sort of back of the sand dunes. Used to be all sand dunes here where the car park is now. So we used to go down quite frequently just to Torquay, and then we past Paul's Cafe is. Used to be just a bit of a walk down. There was no stairs, of course. It's all sand and that. So Yeah, so but basically what am I now? I'm 65, so that's got to be 63 years. Initially, just as I said, on the lilo, and over a period of time, goes back in the 50s and 60s, boards weren't really available. So I had to wait for my brother and sister and my dad to finish with the board because there was only one board in the whole family. And so there was a balsa board about 10 foot long. So my dad taught me to surf. Peter Troy taught him to surf. And so my dad taught me, my older sister, and my brother. I'm the only one really who kept it going all the years. So yeah, but then my family we bought a block of, mum and dad bought a block of land in Price Street in Torquay, and they built on it sometime probably in the late 60s, early 70s, I think. It might have been in the mid 60s, I'd say, because there was a fibre cement. Anyhow, we came down then and well, we've seen it all change over many, many years, how it's all changed. My dad passed away some years ago, and mum's still, she's 92, going on the 93. She's still going all right. And my two older brother and sister, they live on the other side of Melbourne, and my younger sister lives in Belgrade. But yeah, look, initially, as I said, balsa board. And through the years to fiberglass, when things started happening back in the late 50s, early 60s. We initially didn't have wetsuits, of course. We just had the footy jumper on during the winter time, and it was damn cold, I can tell you.
What was
and
the
a pair of footy shorts.
What was the footy jumper?
Oh, I think it was Essendon, actually, at the time. I was barracking for Essendon. My parents, my mum and from my mother's side, we all barracked for Essendon, going up to Windy Hill and watching some of the games there. So initially we're from Brunswick, and but then eventually myself and mum and dad moved down before I did, and eventually I moved down here permanently, probably more so in the last probably 6 years now, I think, getting on.
Wow.
Initially just Jan Juck there for a little while, but Christine, my wife, and I built the place in Ocean Views sort of thing, and we're now living in Ocean Views here at Torquay permanently. But initially it was back and forth from Brunswick and then Altona, and then as I said, more permanently last probably 6 years. But I still feel sort of I grew up in two places. One was back in Brunswick and one was back in Torquay. So, but yeah, great lifestyle surfing, and but yeah. Wetsuits came in. I think the first wetsuit was a Stag wetsuit from my recollection. Short arms, short legs, and basically still got cold, but there was hardly anybody around. We used to have bonfires on the beach, so that was very good. You come out of the water, or she might have still been cold. You had the big bonfire on the beach, all the bits of wood we picked up before we actually went into surf. Crowd-wise, likely to be 6 of us out there at any particular time during the day. But yeah,
Well, that would be nice.
Go what?
That would be nice.
It was. It was totally different to what we have now. But we surfed everywhere. We surfed Jan Juck and other places, and not having a car, of course. We just walked around from Torquay to Jan Juck. Had the old car my parents had, the Dodge. Used to go down to Bells every now and then to Bells, which was probably 2 guys out. and Winky was lucky to be one person out there. And that was during the summertime.
Well, I'm really impressed, Bud. Starting at age 2, I don't think many of us can say that.
Yeah. Not on the board, just on the lilo thing with the handles, 2 handles up the front. And one day I'll show you some of the shots from my cousins, myself, and my dad, and surfing and things like that. So, but yeah, anyhow, but that's where I started.
You've seen it all. You've seen everything. You've seen all the radical changes through Torquay and all the progression of the boards through the ages. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
I might just ask Noel if you can give me a little bit of your background. You're obviously a local. You grew up in this sort of area with your brothers. just give us an idea when you started surfing and where you started surfing.
Yeah, well, much the same way as Bud. We used to come to Torquay over the Christmas period down there at a very young age. And then my parents bought a block up in Janjuk. We used to come on holiday down there and go surfing and just sort of hang out at the beach every summer. We sort of, I think when I was about 11 years old, we moved down here to Torquay. That was in about 1973. I went to school in Geelong and then sort of grew up just playing football at Torquay and surfing mainly, sort of thing. So started out on the lilo much like Bud did, then had a plastic wave type board. I think there's one of those in the museum. And then when I was about 12, I think my parents bought me my first surfboard. So from there, I finished school. Once I finished school, I got a job with Watercool straight off. I was about 17 years of age, and since then I've worked in the surfboard industry and been lucky enough to work in places like Lorne, Aries Inlet, Anglesea, Torquay and Bowen Heads all at the same time. So I got to travel up and down the coast and just go surfing every day. So it's been a pretty sort of nice lifestyle growing up.
And yeah, predominantly West Coast. I know when I first did meet you, you used to be sneaking across to the island over summer on those southeasters, and I just think that was pretty gun ho, jumping in your car and just sleeping in the back of your car and
yeah, right. Right with the club, we started the club. I was one of the original starters of the club back in, I think it was about 1983, 84. And at a very young age, I sort of did travel a lot all over Victoria to go surfing in different places. I was one to get up early in the morning and think it was good at Kennett. I'd go and surf Kennett first and then do my work afterwards. So I did chase the surf and chase sort of good surf. So it was nothing to jump in the car and go to Phillip Island for a weekend when the big southeasterlies were blowing, or even go down to Portland, down to Blacknose or somewhere like that if you thought it was really good.
Yeah, yeah. We're just running a little bit of footage of you here. This looks like Point and Possos to me. This will be one of the comps from over the last couple of years.
I've never seen much footage of myself surfing. It's probably a good thing.
I've got lots. We'll reveal it one day.
Yeah, with the club, it's been fantastic being a member of the club and starting up the club. It sort of went for a long time, then sort of died out for a while, and then come back to sort of be as big as what it is now. And that's through the dedication of some of the people sort of who've been there running it and sort of thing over the years. So yeah, it's a really fun thing to do. For about 9 years, I think I was also president of the Otway Board Riders Club, which was a shortboard club down at base sort of out of Aries Inlet. And yeah, we were quite a substantial club there as well, running at the same time as we started the Malibu Club.
Yeah, right.
A big involvement with working in the surf industry. Sort of, my whole life's been basically based around surfing.
Excellent. Have we got Emma here?
I think we might have lost her.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to give her a ring. So just ask Bud another question, if you don't mind. I'll give her a ring.
Not a problem. So, Bud, I mean, was there ever a point where, I mean, we know you're a passionate longboarder, where you were into shortboarding, and if you were, what was your transition back into longboarding?
Yeah, I suppose initially riding the 10-foot boxer boards and then fiberglass boards, pike, Fred Pike surfboards. My dad always used the Fred Pike, and I sort of followed my dad. But basically, back in probably would have been the 70s, I was still riding shortboards. It wasn't until probably the late 80s, early 90s or something that I went back into longboarding. Because back then Fred Pike had finished up, and so talking to a guy called Kanga, he used to be quite a good surfer around here. Was his nickname. And I can't think of his right name, but then, yeah, Kanga was the guy who put me on to Peter Ashley and Stephen Ashley making boards for me. So that's when I really started getting back into longboarding. Peter and Stephen, Peter obviously glassing the boards because well-known glasser around the world. Peter Ashley, one of the top glassers, apart from Noel, of course.
Oh, of course.
Anyhow, Stephen used to shape all my boards for me, and still quite a few of the Ashley boards. But yeah, so probably, what did I say, late 80s, early 90s, then joined the Surf Coast Longboarders.
It was pretty early days for the popularity of longboarding again.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a few guys around Little Left-Handed that we know of toward Ocean Grove on longboards, probably in the early 80s, and I'd never seen any, since I was a young kid, to actually see guys riding. They were old boards too. Yeah. It was pretty rare. So, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I might jump in there.
Yeah.
There virtually wasn't sort of longboard riding around at all, but in about 1976, we watched some old film clips of guys surfing, the guys at Watercool, and we decided we'd make up some longboards. So we made what the modern version was of about sort of 8-foot sort of boards, and then they sort of took off fairly popular, and all of a sudden it turned into sort of 9-foot and 8-foot surfboards becoming quite popular into the start of the 80s, which is when we sort of formed the club. So there was a period before about 1976 where no one rode a longboard. It was all shortboards. Twin fins were very big at that stage, and thrusters sort of just come in. So, you know, because there wasn't the amount of people about, and like Bud said, you could go surfing in a really good spot with just say 4 or 5 people, then you didn't have to compete. So a shortboard was very easy to ride in those days, to catch a lot of waves and to catch sort of good quality waves, where I think the resurgence of the longboard come back a bit as the crowd grew and it got busier. People looked to the longboard to be able to catch more waves against sort of competitive surfers and sort of, then they realised that in small surf, they can turn a really sort of, ordinary day into a really fun day. So it took off slowly through the 80s, but by the time we hit the 90s, I think it had become quite popular, the longboard surfing again.
And it's interesting how longboarding itself has become its own, I don't know, it's become a whole culture within itself. Now we've got logs, and I mean, I remember there were mini mals at one point, but it's gone to high performance boards, logs, all sorts of things, and now we're getting into sliders, and it's almost like there are whole new divisions within just longboarding itself. And the progression of longboards, I mean, I would think certainly the lighter materials, more maneuverability. I mean, what else do you think is actually, obviously, the fact that we can catch waves easier? Is there anything else, do you think, that's really contributed to the popularity of modern longboarding?
I think it's a very accessible thing to do, and you can surf a lot more places. And, when it sort of started up down here, it took off really big and quick in Queensland, where they had a lot of point breaks with long, small waves. And the guys could actually go up there and sort of, get a lot longer rides and have more enjoyable rides, sort of thing. And then with the progression of, the lightweight board compared to years ago, some of the guys could sort of surf them basically like shortboards. So, when people saw people doing that, catching more waves and surfing like shortboards or as good as some of the shortboarders, I think that helped to progress it along fairly quickly. And then slowly it's transgression back to being longboard surfing, which seems to be a lot more emphasis on the old traditional way of surfing now, with a lot of longboarding.
Yeah.
Now, would you say that the thrusters made a bit of a difference too? The 3 fins?
3 fins definitely made a difference to the style of surfing and where you could surf. the original sort of twin fins sort of loosened up boards to go a bit more radical, but to control a twin fin really well, you had to control the slide of it or have big fins in it and sort of be a little bit restrictive, where the thruster in the progression of that took out all the tail slide out of your board, so you could surf bigger waves harder. And as well as the first original, I think most of the longboards that I saw were come back into being thrusters, meant that you could ride them deeper and in more hollower waves all the time than you compare with, say, an old logger board. So, you know, it was almost the progression of the short boards that put on the progression of the long boards that brought the long boards back into surfing sort of more into the way short boards were surfing, and you could sort of really pull them into pockets, pull them into barrels, and sort of, you know, you could even do 360s on a long board. And with that progression that you sort of went, okay, that's, you know, a lot of guys went, I'm getting too old, too big to surf a short board. They progressed into the long board and could still surf sort of, you know, really good.
All right. Just interesting to point out to everybody too. I mean, I'm sure you've seen all these guys in action. The guests we've got tonight are all goofy foots. And we live in a we live in an area which is predominantly right-handers, so we get to see their backhand surfing skills, and they're pretty attuned to it. I mean, I think all of you are, you know, I mean, it's just it's funny as a natural foot. Even this morning, there are a few people out there this morning, and I spotted a few lefts coming through, and I said, you know, just keep an eye on those. They're good, but they're very reluctant to surf on their backhand. So it's interesting to see you guys, how you've taken it under wing. I mean, you probably don't get much opportunity to ride lefts. But tell me what sort of wave is you, I mean, if you could surf anywhere, if you could surf a reef, a beach break or a point break, do you have a favourite type of wave?
Who you're asking?
Any one of you.
Okay, I'll start. And Glenn, sorry, Noel can come in. Look, the little left hand that comes off at Torquay in front of the Torquay Surf Club's good. And also Point Danger and also Super Tubes at times. Longboard, haven't surfed it so much, but certainly a shortboard. It's a good wave to surf in a shortboard. But there is plenty of breaks around, just likely that a lot of people don't think about it. But even boobs, the left-hander that comes off at boobs, particularly in the summertime.
Yep.
And also your beach breaks, of course.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, my favourite type of wave is actually beach breaks compared to point breaks. I like sort of hollow and really fast. I've sort of always considered myself as sort of like a fast surfer and down the line surfer, rather than sort of the slow point breaks. A lot of our point breaks are slow waves, and I just get more enjoyment out of sort of, you know, almost getting pummeled into the sand rather than just cruising into the beach sort of thing. So I've always chose places like Torquay, inside Torquay, the left-hander there when it's hollow and breaking. Point Danger is good, but it doesn't have the impact of sort of some of the beach breaks. Signings at 13th would be one of my favourite waves when it's going, the left-hander there, and the better and hollower it gets closer to the beach, the more I like it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, if I sort of get drilled at the end of it and I'm laying on the beach, I'm quite happy. So I've always preferred most of the beach breaks up and down the coast, but with the choice of point breaks we got, it's pretty hard not to surf them sort of, you know, occasionally as well, because we've got some of the most pristine point breaks in the whole of Australia, I think. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we do. And I've said in previous interviews how blessed we are to have the stretch of coast where you can always find somewhere to surf no matter what the conditions. Might not be great, but there's no reason we can't surf. Unless it's been like the past week and it's been flat. But overseas surfing, have either of you surfed overseas?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
You've been to Phillip Island.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, if you paddle out, you're virtually going overseas. So
Yeah. New Zealand's a good one. Good place to check out, both South and North Islands. New Zealand, some great waves there, point breaks, beach
Yep.
breaks. And also I surfed over in Samoa, and that's pretty heavy stuff with the reefs out there in the islands. And also Canada,
Really?
and up at British Columbia,
Yeah.
around there, and Tenerife. Yeah. So pretty cool. But I was there during the sort of early summer, I suppose, and surfed around there. So there's heaps of sort of spots around there that you can surf, and also on the east coast of Nova Scotia as well. Some great places to surf. But New Zealand, close, to get across and that. And Samoa was just one of those things I drove myself when I'm done. So no, surfed a few places.
we did take a trip to Tassie.
Sorry, yes, we did too.
Had some good waves down there. That was quite good fun.
We did, yes.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to check in with Ted. How did we go with Emma? She dropped off.
I think Emma's lost it. I couldn't get through on the phone, and I'm not sure where she is. Yeah.
Pretty simple. So Emma's dropped out of the radar a little bit somewhere, probably having some tech issues. So we're going to continue on anyway, and hopefully Emma will be able to join us again. Really like to hear Emma's views on these things, but we'll carry on anyway, regardless. So, and I know you have both got very strong views. Oh, Emma's back. Hey, Emma.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Emma, I'm going to just, if you can you hear me okay? All right. Yeah, now my phone goes off. So, Emma, I'm just going to cast back. We had a few questions earlier on, which I'd like to propose to you. And one of them is basically when you started surfing, how long you've been surfing for. You want to fill us in on that?
I've been surfing for a long time. I heard all Bud's thing. I basically started, actually, I think Bud probably knew me when I was about 4 years old. I think he was supervising nipper carnivals. I started in surf lifesaving, like doing nippers. And back then there was no rules and regulations. So I think I was about 4 years old when I started riding a nipper board with the 10-year-olds or whatever it was. And I just basically went from there. There wasn't a heap of girls surfing when I started. Even for me, probably up until about 10 years ago, surfing down in Victoria, there wasn't many girls, and you knew pretty much every girl that was in the water. But
Emma, we also talked about surfing overseas, and I've heard you talking about surfing in New Zealand, which is something which we all want to do. But how about
you're from New Zealand?
I know. I want to do a surf trip there, though.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your adventure in New Zealand and the type of waves that you surf. You don't have to name spots, but
well, Bud came with me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you come?
No, not on that one.
No. We went to the South Island and we surfed Kaikoura. There used to be a comp there, a pro-am there, and the club actually, I think Bud and I decided we were going to go there, and we organised a group of people to go there, and it was pretty cool. I like surfing lots of different places, so I'll go anywhere. If someone's taking a trip, I'll jump on board and go with them.
Yeah, good.
It wasn't as cold as here.
No. And the type of wave that you prefer to surf, Emma? I mean, we've got a lot of point breaks down here, and I just mentioned earlier that all three of you are goofy foots, and you're kind of living in the land of right-hand points down here. But is there a type of wave that you prefer? I mean, do you prefer to surf knolls into beach breaks? Do you prefer a point break or a reef or beach break?
Well, I would love a left-hand point break, but they're few and far between here. So yeah, when I started surfing, I probably surfed a lot more beaches. But as I've got older, I definitely like surfing point breaks. Just you get a longer ride and it's heaps more fun. So yeah, I definitely think I'm a point break surfer now. But I definitely like to surf lots of different types of waves.
Right,
Now
Emma,
I'm myself surfing.
look, can you see this image on the screen? Can you see what's behind you?
A whale.
A whale. Do you remember that?
Yeah, where did we do that? That's at Posso's when we were doing some coaching or something, isn't it?
That's incredible. A whale. Fantastic.
Oh, now I can see myself again. Now he's got the sup stuff.
Yeah. Emma, sorry, when I asked a question earlier about how long you've been surfing, and it was very choppy. We weren't really getting. I don't know if we'll be able to use that, but maybe if you can just quickly touch on when you started surfing.
I think I was in my teens. I started. I started like everyone did, I think, back then. And Bud used to officiate. We used to do nipper carnivals and stuff. And obviously, my thing was riding the clubby board, and I used to do that growing up because there wasn't that many girls surfing. And then I just moved on to different things. And at the time, 20 years ago, everyone sort of worked to go on a wave around here because it was a common place to work. And just started traveling with those guys. And I think the first time I jumped on an actual mal was probably when I was about 20, after I'd done a road trip up to Crescent Head. And I was like, oh, people ride mals, because we come from the land of shortboarders. And so I came back and thought, oh yeah, this is pretty good. We've got all these breaks. And at the time, Winky and all those were getting pretty crowded, and a lot of the longboard waves weren't as crowded. So I was surfing by myself. So I started to surf a longboard more and more and more. Now I'm going back the other way because all the longboard waves are crowded.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out to all three of you. We just talked about surf etiquette a short while ago, and the three of you are people that, so many of us look up to. And I know that all three of you mentor a lot of people in your own way, even if you're not aware of it. But you do have a lot of respect from everybody. I'd just like to know how do you think we need to cope with this incoming crowd of people at all these breaks, and how do you feel we should be dealing with the general type of etiquette that's out there at the moment? Any one of you?
Any of us?
Yeah.
Someone jump in there. No one's going to?
Yeah, well, I'll quickly say something, and then you can join me. One of the things that I've been trying to do, and it's frustrating, but when we're out there, and there's a few out there, and the people who, particularly the learners, try to explain to them of the etiquette and rules of surfing. If you're catching the wave, you're on the wave first, then you have the right of wave. And you should be able to ride that wave all the way through without all the other people dropping in on you. So generally speaking, I get out there and I explain to them. Sort of have to bite my tongue at times, but just not sometimes. It can be frustrating. But yeah, I'll leave it. Who wants to go next?
I'll throw to you, Noel.
Yeah, I think it's something that, that not many people starting out surfing actually know anything about. And it's not sort of taught to people in any way. There's no sort of, there's no instruction manual of how to go surfing. There's no sort of common knowledge. Once people have surfed for a while, they sort of learn about surf etiquette. But before people have surfed for a fair while, surf etiquette is not something they know anything about, really. And it starts right from people sort of learning, just from paddling out, getting in people's way, right through to people just sort of paddling for waves when other people are on them and stuff like that. And it's sort of something I think that we could have a program on, or, someone could set up a good sort of information on some sort of video or something like that that people could view to sort of learn a little bit about. But it's sort of, I know it gets frustrating with people out there and what they do and stuff like that, but a lot of people just simply don't know, and the frustration sort of turns to sort of, aggravation because you think they should know but they don't know, sort of thing, and it's not something that is properly explained to people in surf schools or anything like that when they first take up surfing, or people surfing, or even something with the sail of a surfboard or anything like that. There's no sort of passed on knowledge in any department of surfing or for any aspect of surfing about these things and about surf etiquette. So I think, it's hard to deal with and you get frustrated with it, but, maybe we should be the people to actually develop some sort of idea to educate people on a bit of surf etiquette.
Good. Emma, do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, Ted and you, aren't you making a video about surf etiquette at the moment? I think it's a great scheme for you guys to get on.
Yeah. I was actually starting to develop a bit of a concept which was turned into a game, and looking at funding and all that sort of thing. And it went round in big circles, and hoping to get Rip Curl involved. But I mean, my hypothesis on the whole thing is that a lot of the problems are caused now by more people in their 30s and 40s who decide, I've moved down here and I'm going to take up surfing, and they're beyond. It's almost like an embarrassment to ask what's right and what's wrong. It's it bruises their ego to have to actually ask someone. So they just it's pretty disrespectful the way a lot of people at that sort of age have kind of moved in on other people and just with total disregard. And but I mean, look, I'm quite marvel at you, Emma, how you can just paddle out into the middle of a crowd, still totally stoked, still smiling, and get a heap of waves. You get a heap of waves, and you manage to be able to avoid a lot of the conflict and that sort of thing.
I have conflict. I have conflict for a different reason in the surf, though, because it's a girl guy thing, I think. So if there's girls out there, it's easier for me to say something to them. But if a guy would say something, like I've had guys say things to me out there, and I'm like, I don't want your opinion, mate, like about where I'm sitting or whose turn it is. And like I've had guys, I've been out at Rincon and they've said, oh, you're catching too many waves. And I'm like, if I was a guy, would you dare say that to me? Like, would you tell one of the guys that they're catching too many waves or they're doing this? So for me in the lineup, yes, there's a lot of surf etiquette, but I find at beginner places, like if you're at Torquay, you've got to accept a little bit of the beginners that are there. But I have more a problem if I go surf somewhere else where the beginners are. Like for me, the beginners, I know that they're going to get in your way and stuff like that and don't understand the surf etiquette. I have, growing up surfing mainly with guys, I have more, if I was to go somewhere where they think it's inappropriate for me to surf, I have more issues with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It certainly does. You shouldn't feel intimidated by anybody because you can surf pretty well much better than most of them. So, it's a whole sort of, I don't know how to explain that, but
the lineup is such a complicated place. Like when you start surfing, you don't understand the dynamics that make up that lineup at any different place. And you guys would have all felt it when you're having a great time, everyone's taking it turns, it can be crowded, and then all of a sudden one person paddles out, whether they're a beginner or advanced surfer or whatever, and the whole lineup changes. What's been happening everyone's felt that, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when they try to take inside position and blow waves all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, that's good. Good insight. And I certainly, looking at the amount of girls who are surfing now is actually, I've found it really enjoyable to, particularly where I'm surfing most of the time, to paddle out. And it's just such a nice vibe. It's a really friendly vibe. I've said it before. And it only takes a couple of guys to paddle out and just come and almost sit on top of you and sit inside you. And I think, it's just like testosterone poisoning or something that's going on. It's like they target me as probably one of the few guys out there. But
Okay.
yeah. Oh, we've got Bud back. Okay.
Yeah, I think we had problems with the internet out here.
Yeah.
Can
There's
you
a bit of a
see me?
drain for some reason.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be using it. I've had it crash a few times where I've had all my students, and I warn them, just say, if it blacks out, I'll be back. Hang in there. Don't go.
I'm just using my
No one can go anywhere anyway. So, okay, that's great. Really good and insightful stuff. I want to just quickly touch on the club itself, on the Surf Coast Longboarders, and what drew you. I mean, personally, I joined the club because I was surfing a fair bit with Brian Coote, and I remember he just said, right, I think he had just turned 50, and he said, I'm joining the Surf Coast Longboarders. And I'd heard about the club, and I thought, it actually sounds pretty good. It took me another 2 or 3 years to actually join the club, but never looked back. It's just been, it's such a great crew of people, and certainly advanced my surfing at that point. And I'd just like to get your general views on what the club means to you. Bud, we might start with you.
Me? Okay. Oh, look. That's right. Well, look, I joined the club to sort of meet a lot more of the people I surfed out there with, get to know them a bit more. It's just a social sort of thing, plus enjoyment of surfing, of course. So I'm just trying to reflect as to when it was I joined. I think it would have been probably about 15 to 20 years ago I joined the club, probably in the 90s, I think it might have been. Late 80s, 90s? Yeah, 90s I would have been. Anyhow, basically joined the club, got to know a few of the guys. And it was good to have the social thing as well as just free surfing was what I used to do. But then I got a lot more enjoyment out of it once I got to know the people and got to know them personally, and get out the back there and surf wherever we were surfing, have a chat to them.
Very good. Emma?
I socially pretty much, and it really made to surf different places. Like I can remember when we used to have the 3 state rounds and we'd go to different places. Like it makes you get up and go somewhere different really, and meet new people, and like otherwise you'd stick in your own area. Like I can remember we always used to have one at Phillip Island, and I think I camped next to Dave and a couple of people. I was on my P's and they just started talking to me, and it was really friendly, and pretty much meeting people that you wouldn't normally talk to. That's why I joined the Longboard Club. I'm talking now, I'm talking to 14-year-olds, I'm talking to 7-year-olds, and we've all got the same common goal, common interest, and surfing's an equaliser. Whether you're you're a doctor, you're a labourer, I reckon surfing's a great equaliser. When you're out in the lineup, no one knows what you are. You're all wearing the same suit.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Very
good. Emma, you were awarded as a life member a few years ago too, from memory.
Yeah. I think at one stage there, before I had my kids, I'd done everything. I've been the secretary, I've been vice president, I've been president. We used to have a single fin comp. We used to run a lot of team trips. I don't know. I can remember Bud driving up to Crescent Head with us, and we'd taken like AJ and Will and Taz Dutton, and I think they were like 16 at the time. And I was like, oh God, I think I was 21. I was like, what are we doing this? And like, just lots of fun, different stuff. Like I really like the single fin comp we used to have. I think we even used to have it before Torquay Board Riders had it. So, yeah. So I think. Well, one of the founding members was Noel, but yes, I'm a life member too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Noel,
that was your cue, Noel, to talk.
It is. Noel, okay. Noel, obviously, our judging mentor too. He's often acting head judge and been around comps most of his life. So, what does the club mean to you, Noel?
The club has been a huge part of my life. I started off probably sort of joining the club because of my brother. He and a few other guys got together and said we should start a club, so dragged me along as well to the first meeting. And it was a way of getting a few of the guys that surfed around the place to come together. I'd been involved with shortboard clubs and surfed shortboard titles up until then, and there was a real negative vibe between crew in the shortboards, where the longboards were really open to each other, and it wasn't, they were still competitive when they surfed, but they were a lot more friendly in and out of the water, and it was more on your surfing that they appreciated rather than trying to be a winner at something sort of thing. So, yeah, and when I got involved in the club, then we just tried to involve more with it. We were involved in running the first national titles and getting them up and running. And like Emma said, the best part of the club that I found in the early days especially was travelling, different parts of Australia, all over Victoria to different spots. We've had contests sort of down in Warrnambool, sort of over the island, down at Lake Entrance Way, and all over the place. And it introduced you to a lot of new spots that you weren't used to. And when you travel with friends, it's always more exciting to go and surf new places. And over a period of years, you realise when you've been surfing a lot, that some of the best days, you don't really remember the waves, you actually remember the people that you went surfing with. And the club is really good for that sort of thing. You remember really good days with the club and certain days and, who was there and who you surfed against in contests and things like that. It's been, with being club member of the Otway Board Riders and then with the Malibus, it's sort of like been, probably 3/4 of my life has been involved with clubs and running clubs and surfing. And the people you meet, it's every time you go surfing, and I, still travel now to New South Wales, to Queensland or somewhere, and I run into people that I've surfed against and been involved with over the period of time sort of thing. So that is what I really appreciate about the club and going surfing and surfing contests and things like that.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay.
It's seems to be a club for life for everyone. It's certainly made some really good friends from the club, and the fact that everybody really looks out for each other has been pretty amazing to just witness the camaraderie and everything within the club itself. And as you were saying, Emma, I mean, even across the ages, we are like a tribe after all, but at whatever age, young, old, everybody's got that common interest and a common passion. But it's beyond the competition itself. It's just being there. I mean, it's nice occasionally to get good waves and only 2 or 3 other people out there, obviously. So there's a vested interest.
I notice it massively now when all those boys, Bud, that we took to Crescent, like, they're all 28, 30 now, and like a couple of them have got my back no matter what, and they were young kids when they first met me. I can remember them saying, I taught them at school, like, are you going surfing? Can we, back then, and they'd be like, we're coming home with you. Call our parents, and it was Cuzzo and all that, and oh, I'm picking you up on the way past, and that'll be like, oh, okay. And AJ, his dad was principal, and he was like, oh, you going surfing? Where are you going surfing? And, you know, and now seeing them grow up and like they're all men now, and, you know, it's like lifelong friends, even if you don't have to see them all the time.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing, Emma. I think with the club, it's a social thing, and also I think we tend to help other people in the sense of how to surf and show them, give them some pointers of surfing. No matter what level they are, we tend to encourage them. Include them.
It's like Noel touched on it with the short boarders and the long boarders. The longboard club, you can come and be at any level, and we will include you, and you are part of us, whether you're a superstar or whether you're just standing up and getting out there for the first time. I think that's the massive difference.
Yes, too right. And I think a good example of that is the Why Women of Water too. A lot of the ladies who are a bit unsure or don't have much confidence, and I think that's been a great thing for the club, and encouraging women to get out there and have a go at it, surf, different places, and so on.
Well, that goes back to teaching them the etiquette in the surf. When they are unsure and they come at a day like that, you're explaining who's got right away and things like that. And I think a lot of those women come and speak to me after it and about it. And most of them, they've all learned something. So it's not, their surfing might not have jumped up or anything, but they've all come away, oh, we never knew that, you know, that the person on the inside has right away, or we never knew that we was, you know, because I was saying you're sitting on the shoulder, like they never knew that. So it's harder for guys, because I don't think guys would go to a beginner thing. Like you said, Glenn, they get to a certain age and point, and they don't want to be seen as beginners, where women can still be a beginner and be comfortable with that when they're 35 or 40.
Another good thing about the club, I've always said, I think of all the members I've seen join over the years, they've always improved. And I reckon there's a couple of reasons because of that. One is because they hang around and they watch surfing and they watch the others and they go, I want to try this, and they slowly learn how to do it, and they want to progress and get better and be like that person that they see surfing all the time. So they get a little bit better that way. But the other thing is when they start off, they're usually sitting out in the water by themselves somewhere and getting that odd wave left over from somewhere. They join the club and they start becoming friends with the people. They paddle out, they're sitting there with 2 or 3 people that they know in the water, might be Torquay Point or Point Danger, and then all of a sudden they're catching, you know, more waves and improving that way. So it's really good to see people who join to actually progress and get better and better as they go along.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, I'm just looking at the clock ticking away here. It looks like we almost have to wrap up. I'm going to ask you something, a really quick question. I'm just going to throw it out to you now. It seems quite absurd to be asking this question to the three of you, but if there was one manoeuvre that you really want to master, what is that manoeuvre? Bud?
Ooh, hang 10, maybe. Ride the 5.
Emma?
Heels over.
Heels over. Okay. Noel?
Probably a 360 on a longboard.
Interesting. I like to say a carving 360.
Yeah, all types of 360s. But yeah, I'd like to get back into trying to do 360s on a longboard again.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, guys. Much appreciated. Love your insight. Like I say, you're legends in the club. So I've been pretty excited, and it's taken a while to organise the three of you. So it's been great. Sorry about all the tech issues. Ted, thanks for holding it together. We'll have to do a little bit of editing around, but I think this is going to be a real good interview. So thanks again. Thanks to our sponsors, Brett Stammer's Rare Surf T-shirts, and Holly and Sue at Looking Smart. See you next time, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks everyone.